Hello crafters! Today we will be making a DIY hand-woven bag using this leather craft kit. Checking the materials upon receiving the package. When you receive your leather crafting kit, the first thing you should do is carefully inspect the contents to ensure everything is included. This step is crucial because missing materials could make it difficult to complete the project. Inside the package, you will find a piece of paper with numbers corresponding to different leather pieces. These numbers indicate the shape and length of each piece, helping you understand where each one will go during assembly. On the back of this paper, there is a small box that represents a specific leather piece. This guide will be essential throughout the stitching process, so make sure to keep it handy. Next, examine the leather pieces included in the package. There is one large rectangular leather piece which serves as the base and several long, narrow leather strips of different sizes. Sorting these pieces properly before starting will make the process much smoother. I have already pre-sorted mine, but when you receive your package, I highly recommend taking a moment to organize them yourself. Place all the pieces on a flat surface and compare them with the paper template to ensure they match the numbered labels provided. In addition to the leather pieces, your package includes a small numbered sheet and a sewing kit. The sewing kit contains one roll of waxed thread, 2 needles, and 2 sets of magnetic buckles. These magnetic buckles consist of 2 parts. One is slightly concave, indented, while the other is slightly convex, protruding. If you look at them from the side, you will notice that one piece is thicker while the other is thinner. Each kit includes 2 pairs of these magnetic buckles, along with 4 small metal washers. It is important to handle these buckles carefully. Do not let the thin piece attach to the thick piece too soon, as it will be difficult to separate them once they are stuck together. Additionally, make sure to prepare a small pair of scissors and a lighter before starting the stitching process. Once everything is ready, take the paper template and carefully match the leather pieces accordingly. Sorting the leather pieces. Sorting the leather pieces correctly is one of the most important steps in this process. It's not just about matching them by length, but also by direction. Some pieces may look similar, but their orientation matters. For example, piece #2 and piece #5 are the same length, as are piece #3 and piece #4, as well as piece #1 and piece #6. However, the pointed ends of these pieces face different directions, so it is important to pay close attention to how they align. To distinguish the correct side of the leather, note that the front side has a smooth finish, while the back side has a suede-like texture. If the material is genuine leather, you will see natural leather fibers on the back. Always use the smooth front side as your reference when numbering and arranging the pieces. Once you have identified the correct sides, gather all the strips labeled as piece #2 and attach the #2 label to them. Do the same for piece #5, piece #1, piece #3, piece #4, and piece #6. Some of these pieces may be longer than the template paper. You might notice that piece #3 and piece #4 extend beyond the edges of the template. This is completely normal. In addition to the numbered strips, you will also find extra leather pieces included in your kit. One piece has holes on all 4 sides. This will serve as the handle. Another piece, which does not have holes, is used as reinforcement. This reinforcement piece is layered inside the handle to make it thicker and sturdier. Each kit includes 2 handle pieces and 2 reinforcement pieces to ensure the handle is firm and comfortable to hold. Lastly, locate the large rectangular base leather piece and compare it with the template paper. It should be exactly the same size. Once everything is sorted, you are ready to move on to the next step, measuring the thread length and threading the needle. Before you begin stitching, you need to measure the correct length of thread. The proper way to do this is to measure the entire perimeter of the base piece and multiply this length by 4. This ensures you have enough thread for stitching with a bit of extra length for reinforcement. Once measured, cut the thread using a pair of small scissors. Now, let's prepare the needle. First, insert one end of the thread through the needle eye as you normally would. Next, use the needle tip to pierce through the center of the thread, then pull it tight. This secures the thread to the needle without the need for a knot. Repeat this process with the other end of the thread and the second needle. At this point, your thread should be ready for stitching. Starting the stitching process. Now let's begin stitching. First, identify one of the corner holes on the base piece. Referring to the template paper, note that stitching starts from the second hole, not the first. The first section to be stitched together is piece #1 and piece #6. Take out these 2 pieces and ensure they are stacked correctly, with piece #1 on top of piece #6. Align them with the second hole on the base piece before starting. Using one of the needles, pierce only the base leather at the first hole. Then, take the second needle and pierce through the second hole, ensuring it goes through both piece #1 and piece #6. Continue stitching hole by hole, following a precise method. First, pass needle A through a hole, then pass needle B through the next hole. Make sure the stitches are even and tight. Throughout the process, refer to the template paper frequently to ensure each piece is stitched in the correct order. Once you finish stitching piece #1 and piece #6, leave 3 empty holes before proceeding to the next section. After completing pieces #1 and #6, leave 3 empty holes before moving to the next section. For this part, you will be stitching piece #3 and piece #5 together. Start by identifying the second hole in this section, as stitching always begins there. Take out piece #3 and piece #5, ensuring that piece #3 is on top of piece #5, and align them properly with the second hole of this section on the base piece. Begin stitching by using needle A to pierce only the base leather at the first hole of this section. Then take needle B and pierce through the second hole, ensuring it passes through both piece #3 and piece #5. Continue the stitching process by passing needle A through a hole first, followed by needle B through the next hole, keeping the stitches tight and even. Once this section is complete, leave 3 empty holes before proceeding to the next set of pieces. For the final section, you will be stitching piece #2 and piece #4 together. Again, locate the second hole of this section and take out piece #2 and piece #4, ensuring piece #2 is on top of piece #4. Align them properly with the base piece before starting. When stitching at each corner, secure the base leather alone before adding the next set of pieces. Finishing the stitching. Once all sections have been stitched together, the final step is to connect the last stitch back to the starting hole. To secure the stitch, pass the thread through the initial holes once again. Then backstitch 2 holes for added reinforcement. After securing the stitches, trim any excess thread, leaving about 2 to 3 millimeters. To prevent fraying, use a lighter to gently burn the thread ends. This will help lock them in place and prevent unraveling over time. First, take a look at the paper. It shows that you should start with piece number 3 in number 5th place, number 3 on top of number 5, then find these 2 pieces and rotate them according to the correct orientation indicated on the paper. Once aligned, hold them in place and stitch them together at the marked position. After sewing that section, leave a gap of 3 holes. Don't stitch through those yet. Then move on to adding the next 2 leather pieces, number 2 and number 4th place number 4 underneath, and number 2 on top. Position them carefully in the designated spot, likely near a curved or corner section, and sew through the corner hole manually. As you continue, follow the same pattern shown on the diagram to stitch around the entire edge. The goal is to sew in the same way as you did before, keeping the sequence consistent. Make sure to secure the bottom leather pieces, especially at the turning points, by stitching them yourself. Next, move to the back portion of the project. Refer to the diagram again. You'll be repeating the same steps. This time, you'll be working with number 3 and number 5 again, with number 3 on top. Sew these pieces into position just like you did earlier. After that, leave another gap of 3 holes and sew the bottom leather in that area. Once you're done with that, place number 2 on top of number 4 and finish sewing this last section. At this point, the small segment involving number 2 and number 4 should be complete. Now, you need to bring the final stitch back to the very first hole you started with. This connects all the segments and keeps the thread continuous. On the back side, make sure that all the holes on both the front and back are sewn shut. Then do 2 reverse stitches to lock everything in place. After that, trim the excess thread, but leave about 2 to 3 millimeters so it's not too short. Lightly melt the thread ends with a lighter so they seal neatly. This will prevent any unraveling. Now, flip the piece over to the back side and spread out all the leather strips neatly. At this point, you can ignore the color codes. Lay each leather piece flat, one by one, pressing them down to stay in place. Once the top layer is done, move on to the bottom layer and press it into position as well. Pinch both sides to secure them. Be careful not to let the previous parts you worked on come apart. Now, with the bottom side facing up, flip the lower section upward. After turning it over, you'll be able to start weaving the sides. Begin with the bottom right strip. This is the rightmost strip at the bottom corner, and weave it upward. As you weave, pay attention to the leather strip it connects to. Each leather piece must follow the pattern. It should go over one strip and under another. Since this strip is on top, the next one should go beneath it. Continue by taking the bottom left strip, the longer one, and weave it upward on that side. Then return to the new bottom right strip and continue the pattern. Make sure each piece is interlaced consistently. As you progress, double-check your work. Each strip should be pressing down on another and also being pressed down by one. Finally, when stitching the last few parts, prepare about 30 to 40 centimeters of thread. Leave a small extra piece at the start. As you sew, be mindful of the stitch path to keep everything tight and clean. Here, you'll need a thread length of about 30 to 40 centimeters. That should be enough. Pull out the thread and leave a small section free at the start. As you begin stitching this part, be sure to pay extra attention. Before you even start sewing, double-check everything again. Make sure all the leather pieces are layered correctly. Now, for the stitching steps. The first stitch joins the two long leather strips. Cross them so they overlap, and insert your needle through the hole at the very bottom of both strips. This is the first hole at the bottom of this section. Make sure both pieces are aligned correctly. For the second stitch, sew only one of the long leather strips individually. It doesn't connect to anything else in this step. This stitch goes through the side, as shown in the demonstration. Then pass the needle through and continue. The third stitch is where you begin to attach the small leather pocket piece, the face piece. When working on this part, try to keep your hand movements small and gentle to avoid damaging or misaligning any parts you already stitched. Take your time here. When you reach the final hole in this section, take the same long leather strip you started with and sew it individually again. Then reverse the stitch path to secure both sides and finish off the edge. After this, the current stitching segment is complete. Now let's continue with the weaving. Take the leather strip at the bottom left corner. Before using it, check that the weaving underneath is done correctly. It should match the pattern. If everything looks good, start weaving it upward. Prepare another piece of thread, again about 30 to 40 centimeters long. As always, double-check the edge alignment before sewing. For this new section, the first stitch once again joins the two long leather strips. Make sure these two are placed correctly. Then for the second stitch, sew the leather piece by itself. No additional layers yet. And for the third stitch, add the small leather piece. This will go into the third hole, and that's where you place and sew the small pocket. After that, you will do a reverse stitch to secure everything and finish off that part. Now, rotate the entire piece. Flip it over to work on the opposite side. You'll notice that the structure looks a bit different now. From here, take the long leather strip on the right side, coming out from the edge. This is important. It has to come from the side, not from the face. Weave it upward carefully. Then take the long leather strip from the left side, also coming from the edge, and weave it upward the same way. Next, take the shorter strip from the right side and weave that one upward too. This completes another part of the structure. Now continue stitching again. Start the small pocket piece at the third hole, just like before. For the first hole, stitch the two long leather strips together. Be sure to double check everything before you stitch, especially the alignment of the layers. At this point, the small pocket you added is only being pinched into place. It's not fully sewn down yet. Next, sew the second hole with just the long leather strip by itself. And finally, in the third hole, insert the small leather piece and stitch it securely in place. After sewing this section, let's move on to the left side panel. Rotate it over like this so that it faces the correct direction, then begin stitching this segment. The sewing method here is the same as when we stitched the flap earlier, so follow the same steps. Once this segment is sewn, take a look at the side part again. We'll now weave and close the side edge neatly. Take the long leather strip, the one that extends diagonally toward the upper left corner. Its position should fall between the first and second layers of leather on the left side. Guide it into place, aligning the edge properly, and stitch it down securely. Next, take the next leather strip, a shorter one, and weave it upward into position. While you're sewing this part, don't forget to connect the long leather strip to keep everything in place and ensure the structure holds firmly. Next, take the shorter leather strip and bring it upward. When sewing this part, remember to connect the long leather strip properly so it stays secured. Then tuck it into position. At this point, we need to find the inner piece of leather, which has only two small vertical holes. This is where we'll install the magnetic clasp we prepared earlier. You can either press it flat on the surface or embed it slightly into the leather, depending on your preference. Later on, when you sew the opposite side of the clasp, just switch to using the other half of the magnetic snap, the matching piece. Here's how to install it. Insert the clasp from the back side of the leather, threading it through the hole from the inside out. Then locate the thin round washer, which acts as a backing plate. Place this washer over the magnetic clasp on the inside. Use your fingers to firmly press it down, making sure the backing lies flat and secure against the leather. After locating the leather strap needed for this part, cut a piece of thread that's about 4 times the length of the section you'll be sewing. Start stitching along the edge and continue until you reach the end. Then take another identical piece and sew it the same way. Once both sides are stitched, find the small leather tab you just worked on. This is what we call the little foot. This tab actually belongs to either the front or back panel of the bag. We're going to position it so that its flat side faces the inside of the bag. Begin stitching from this tab and continue along the nearby edge. As you sew, make sure to connect it to the previous stitching holes so that the flow of the stitching stays continuous. Once that section is complete, you'll have finished attaching the top handle.
上，之后要把之前的孔也给连上，要把这段空的给连上。然后到缝收尾，这个提手就缝好。然后找到跟这个手提它对面的这一
Next,
侧，
find the opposite side of the bag,
来
where
我
you'll
们
begin
把这个
weaving the
手提
strips.
编好，
Pay close attention to how everything is aligned and properly layered.
注意一下它这个位置，把它这样编好。编好之后，给这一片来装气孔。这里就是它的对面。
Once the weaving is done, you'll install a magnetic snap on this section. Earlier, we used the thinner magnetic snap. This time, use the thicker one. That way, the two sides will connect and hold together securely.
检查一下没问题之后，就来缝这一段。这里的线取个大概这多少取？
Before sewing this section, measure and cut about 1 meter of thread. Start sewing from the same little foot tab, connecting the stitches along the handle's right side. Be sure to continue the line of stitches from earlier for a clean finish. End this section by sewing 2 back stitches to lock the thread in place.
然后这个角连上这片。
After you've finished weaving and securing the other parts, move on to the corner of the bag. Before stitching, double check that you're using the thicker magnetic snap on this side. Begin sewing from this corner while inserting the top handle tab into its designated spot. If the hole for the snap on the back isn't clearly visible, feel free to poke through it gently from the front side to guide your placement. Start stitching through the small hole on the leather tab, adding the handle piece in as you go.
把前面的线都给连上。倒缝2针收尾。把这里全部都编好以后，来缝这个角的这个部分。
Follow the stitching sequence step by step and continue until the end. For the final stitch, make sure it connects with the previous row of stitching. Finish it all off by backstitching 2 times to secure it.
是这个厚的，然后这里就用跟它一样的。 开始这样缝过去。在封盖的时候加上这个手提这片。这片是这样子区分。这里线的长度是1米。 这一片去装磁扣。它这个背面的孔要是不太明显的话，可以先从正面先去，这样穿一下。编好之后开始缝上。
Now that you've successfully attached the handle and magnetic locks on one side of the bag, it's time to repeat the exact same process on the opposite side. This ensures that both sides of your bag are symmetrical, sturdy, and beautifully finished. So, go ahead. Flip your bag around and follow the same steps. Weave the leather straps properly into position. Secure the ends of the long strap by stitching them down carefully. Make sure to align the new magnetic snap on this side. Remember, use the thicker snap this time so that it matches the one you installed earlier. Reinforce all key points with consistent stitching. Don't forget to connect the little foot tab and stitch along the edges, just like you did previously. Take your time with this side, just as you did with the first. Consistency is key to making the final product look clean and professionally finished. Double-check all your placements before stitching, especially around the magnet and handle area. Once everything is properly attached on both sides, it's time to close it all up. Sew the back end securely by joining the remaining stitching holes and tying off with a few strong back stitches. This final stitching seals everything into place and gives your bag its complete functional shape.
的这个孔加上提手，提手的这一段放到这，然后之后的就按这个顺序，就编号之后按这个顺序把这一段都给缝上就可以了。这里都缝上之后，最后一针还是要把和之前的这个线给连上。缝完之后到缝2针收尾。
Take a moment to admire your work. You've hand-stitched your own leather bag from start to finish. That's not only a beautiful piece to carry around, but also something you can truly be proud of. Now enjoy your brand new bag, and don't forget to attach your DIY pony keychain to show off your creativity and personal touch. You did an amazing job. Happy crafting!